some very special guests. But first, our hosts are me, Mr. Tuesday, and Squibble.
Hello.
And with us again is David Hughes, or ZoSo.
What's up, man?
And with me today, representing UMass Amherst, are RedRice.
What's up?
And Wind.
Hey, guys.
Hello. So for those of you who don't know, they were last season's part of the crew that won the New England Melee Games and represented us down in Columbia in a very, very hyped set of matches. Would you like to talk a little bit about your run through the finals and then the subsequent matches? So for those of you who don't know, there was a couple of upsets leading up to that. I think, Drew, you were the lead for the match against MIT, right?
No, that was Spifferino.
Yeah, and you guys were considered the heavy underdogs going in. And I considered you guys the underdogs going in. Maybe that's not fair.
Yeah. We would have been if they decided to do a 5-on-5, but I guess they were either overconfident or wanted to give their other players a chance to play in the crew battle, so they went with a 10v10, which is kind of where our strengths lie, I guess.
9v9.
9v9. Was it 9?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Well, right, because the UMass Amherst has always prided themselves on their girthiness, right? Like their first couple of front runners may not be have name recognition of, say, like Claps or Tien or some of the strongest members in the Melee games, but as you go deep down the roster, your depth really shows. Yeah, but unfortunately, you guys couldn't bring that to Columbia, right?
Yeah, because I didn't go. Sorry, guys.
Oof. So what happened?
It was at Columbia. We played. It was Stony Brook University.
Oh, Stony Brook. Right.
So pretty much everyone just got Bopperino. I don't know what to say about it. I think everyone got like 2 stocks or so.
Yeah, the most like anyone took was 2 stocks. Oof. So that was rough.
A lot of like when I was watching, it was a lot of like unfortunate SDs, and then we had 2 of our lower level players in there, who normally wouldn't be in our 5-man roster. I had just had surgery like the day before. I was like, maybe I can do it the day after. I was like, there's no way in hell I'm traveling down to Nebs to play in this crew battle.
So for next Melee Games, we expect you guys at full strength. And do you guys expect to win again next season?
Maybe.
No way.
I think our crew is super serious for this one.
I think
We're talking to the Northeast.
Squibble has something to say about that.
Yeah, well, we're not gonna lose, so you guys can't win.
Well, you guys got wrecked by Yale, right?
Yeah, well, they cheated.
I think Yale was the big breakout of last season. I think the two schools that people didn't necessarily expect to do super well, but ended up coming out of nowhere, and I mean, kind of nowhere, and turning a lot of heads were WPI and Yale. And Yale went on a super deep run, I think, making it all the way to the semifinals.
And they forfeited.
And then they forfeited because they were cheating.
Yeah.
They didn't want to beat people.
I think that if they forfeited, I was thinking to myself that, like, wait, they beat Northeastern to get in, right?
Yes.
So then Northeastern should have just played instead of them. That would have made it a lot cooler, but they just didn't decide to do that for some reason.
Yeah, what did you think about that, Squibble?
I mean, of course, I would have rather played, but I can kind of understand it because I don't know, maybe like once a team has lost, you can assume like all the players have like lives and do other things, and you don't want them to be obligated to play more games. But it was also kind of, but like when
I'm not sure why you would assume they have lives or that they have other things to do. But,
I mean, just like saying like people might have other things to do. They don't have to have lives. It could be other like no life things, but that's okay.
Yeah, I was thinking they could at least like extend the offer.
And it is kind of lame, right? Because you guys again got to compete for New England like 2 semesters ago, even though you got like 3rd at Super Nebs, right? So, or maybe that was a different school, but I think it was you guys, wasn't it?
It was us.
Yeah. So for the actual multi-region battles, they let people who lost go in because other teams couldn't make it, but they didn't allow it in locals, so it's not very consistent.
Okay, so moving on, the the spring circuit is well underway, and I think that Mafia is way out in the lead right now, having won the biggest Massachusetts tournament of all time, which we covered a little bit last week. But then this week, he kind of got, I don't know if you call them upsets, but he took third at New Game Plus to a very strong showing from Crush, and then Pedro took second coming back. So do you expect, so I think everyone here agrees that Mafia is probably the front runner to take it from Massachusetts for the spring circuit. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It really depends on how much we see Crush in the next couple of months.
Doesn't Crush regularly beat Mafia?
Yeah.
So he was actually, I think he beat Mafia something like 4 or 5 weeks in a row. And then I think he took a couple of weeks off because school started up again. I think it was something like that, but you know, like anybody who knows Jack, like he's pretty serious about school, and he does like, you know, a lot of extracurricular stuff. So he's not able to no life it, you know, like the rest of us. But yeah, I think as long as he's regular with his attendance and he stays sharp, I don't know. The thing is, if I'm not mistaken, James is competing like 5 days a week now or something. So he's, I mean, regardless, like just in like sheer quantity, he's probably going to take it for Mass.
Yeah, putting in those monster hours with the dedication.
Mhm.
I mean, super nice because you get to see James at, even if you're not a top player, you definitely get to have the chance to play him at pretty much any local you go to, if you go to enough of them, or any of them. So that's nice. But yeah, I think that there's a decent chance that, at least I've heard some rumors recently, that Pedro might be the, like assuming that Crush is going to take one of the spots if he comes, then, because I think Crush is like 3 or 4-0 with Mafia over the last couple of sets. So assuming that doesn't change, Pedro has been really bringing it to Mafia, and they swap sets almost 50-50 now, right? I think they're.
I
really
think Mafia is still a little bit ahead of him, but the thing is, when Pedro wins a set, he usually makes it look like really dominant. But he's not really able to do that consistently.
Mhm.
And it's pretty rare for them to have like a close set where he wins. It's usually like kind of a wash one way or another.
Yeah, I think that one of Mafia's greatest strengths are edging out the really close sets. Like, I feel I've seen this happen a lot between the top players, and I think this is one of those qualities that's like, it's hard to quantify in players, and some people just seem to have that extra edge where they're really pushed up against the line. Like, they tend to just eke it out somehow. And I don't know what makes a player have that or not. I guess some people might call it the it factor.
Like clutch factor.
Kenny, what do you think about being clutch?
Oh man, I'm definitely not clutch. Like
I don't think any Fox players are clutch.
the only time like you can be clutch is when you're playing, right, and you know that the other person is nervous. Like there are times when I'm playing in like a set where you just know like you're gonna win, and so if it's close but you know you're gonna win, like you play really well. So I've had games like that where like you can actually feel the other person like tilting and stuff like that, and it makes you play like amazing. So that's what I think of like. But I mean, other than that, it's really hard for a Spacey to be clutch because you're playing like really technically and you have a lot of buttons to press and it's hard. So.
Do you ever play to make your opponents not clutch? Like, do you ever try and make your opponent play worse or maybe throw it?
Not on purpose, no. Or like I don't look out to do that because I guess I don't know how to.
I see.
But like,
What about you, Squibble?
Well, I spam taunt. It seems to work, kind of. It depends on the person. But yeah, I definitely agree on the like. You can feel when someone's playing on tilt or when they're nervous. Even you don't even have to be next to them. Like I was playing Now New Game Plus does head-to-head setups. That's super cool for the stream. So I played a few head-to-head sets, and you can still feel how they're playing even when you're not like next to them. So I don't think it's like a psychic aura thing. I think it's like the way they're playing kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can just tell when they're playing more scared or if they're changing up their plan to something that seems worse, and then that just gives you that boost of confidence to do whatever you want, right? I don't know. I think like spamming a move over and over if they keep running into it, or I don't know, spamming moonwalks. That's fun. Just doing like stupid things, even if they're still good, seem to work.
Yeah. Yeah, just like styling in general, I guess, what tilts them.
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
like-
it really depends on the player. I think it's good to be able to recognize that when you see somebody doing it, but it's not really something you can play for. You can play to like reduce the impact of the clutch factor, like if you have like a huge lead and they're like kind of starting to make a comeback, you can use your lead as a resource, and kind of like because you can trade or like take situations that are not great for you a lot more, and not really give them openings to like, gimp you or just like take stocks in silly ways. So I think there's definitely a finesse to that. But yeah, I think mainly it's like if you recognize that somebody is kind of like losing their grip, like if you have a big psychological advantage and like being able to leverage that, that's something that Mango is really good at. But I think just like counting on somebody playing bad, that's kind of something you have to judge case by case.
So how do you get someone to play bad? Because I know that some people base their play around that. I think
like
that
you.
like me. Well, the quintessential. Wow, the call out. The classic example is MacD, right? I don't know if anyone's seen MacD play recently, but I've never heard someone say, "Man, I watched MacD play, and I'm like, wow, that's good melee," right? You just don't hear that. What you hear is, "Man, I saw that play, and it was so dumb, or it was so ugly." But then MacD beats these players like Drug Fox, and he makes it look easy, right? He just goes out and does that. And he plays, I don't know if he specifically tries to put people on tilt, but when you watch those sets, he definitely does, right? Like he does things that are super disrespectful or people think shouldn't work.
Isn't that just like a general like West Coast thing?
I don't think
Did you guys read his friendlies article
Yeah,
that came out?
I actually
Yeah.
haven't read it yet. Can you recap it for us?
I haven't read it.
It's really good. He basically, so he did like the stereotypical Mango thing where he said he's a natural, he's never studied the game, and he just plays by feel. So
I
he
believe
just
that,
tries to
actually.
play by instinct and like do things that he thinks feels good in the moment and not think too hard. And then like one line was that he thought it was funny when he played PP because PP said that MacD was using attacks to clank to defend himself, and MacD had never thought about it like that before. He just throws out moves, but he's just like gotten good habits that seem to work by just like encouraging himself to repeat things that work. So it's kind of scientific, but not. It's not studied. It's more.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty underrated talent to have, and I think in particular McCain doesn't really get enough credit. But I was talking to Bolt about this, who I think is also one of our topics for tonight, and he was saying that I think it shows if you look at MacD's teams play, he's really really good in scramble situations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's a really underrated skill to have. But he just kind of he's like, just has good instincts. He has a good feel for how the game is played, and I feel like if he was like a little bit too studious and a little too methodical about it, unless he put in a lot of work and like really tried to analyze the things he does, I think it would almost like maybe be to his detriment, because one of the advantages I think is, like what I see with McCain a lot is he'll get beat maybe like round one, and like maybe it won't even be close. But the thing is, he doesn't, if you see the way he plays other characters, he doesn't have like a ton of depth but he's really, really good at what he does. So if he starts getting beat, he just kind of like does that harder, I guess. I don't know how else to put it. But
It's true.
there was, yeah,
It
like
just goes in.
yeah, he's a really interesting player. But the advantage of that is like there's very little gap between your decisions and your actions. Like your thought process is very, very streamlined.
So I want to talk about something that you mentioned earlier, where MACD is really good in scramble situations. I think that can be understated. I think that anytime there's a situation where the two characters are close and an interaction is forced, I think that MACD has been in those situations so many times, just by forcing them over and over and by getting hit over and over until he can get in, that once he gets in and like some characters are matched together and whatnot, first of all, he has the innate advantage of being Peach, who really wins anything that's like super close up, right? You just if push comes to shove and both characters attack each other, Peach wins, right? That's just the thing. But I think more than that is that MACD is really good at naturally sniffing out when people want to escape or want to get out and stuffing those options. And there are some players that have that, and there are some players that don't, right? I think for scramble situations, there are just some players that come out better of the chaos, like when you can't think. And like, is that something you can train, do you think? Like, Andrew, what do you think about that?
About training someone to deal better in close quarters?
Yeah, or just like when the stuff has hit the fan, right? Like you don't know which way is up, right? Like you've messed up your movement. Both of you have messed up your movement, like you both flubbed text or something and claimed. And then one player always seems to come out on top, like even in dittos, right? There's sometimes that factor. So what do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I guess it just depends on the nature of the player themselves. I mean, if you're like a defensive sort of player, like I'm thinking about like Doodlemeyer, UMass player, he's very defensive. I don't think that type of player would even just be able to teach themselves that sort of thing, because players who naturally gravitate to their sort of play style, they just gravitate to these play styles because they're kind of best suited to those things. Players are good at some things and bad at others, I guess. So I guess that's why it suits MACD's sort of play style. I haven't really thought about it too much.
Well, all right. So what I think it is like, I think it's definitely some of it is you can say it's because of like how much experience you have. Like, the more like situations you've been put in as a player, like the more experience you'll have, and you'll like know what to do in those situations. Obviously, there's like like an infinite number of possibilities of situations and stuff, but like obviously the more experience you have, the easier you'll like be able to make the better of a situation.
I really like that point, because I think this is something that naturally aggressive players come up with more frequent, get to that point faster. Because I was talking with someone about this a couple of weeks ago, where you can play a campy style, where you kind of have a good situation going for you 90% of the time, right? Like maybe 80, 90% of the time. There are some players who are just really good at camping it out, even at like low, mid-level, where they're good at creating a neutral situation where they seem to always be in, if not in control, then have the edge. This is especially easy to do with, I think, Falco, or maybe like Sheik. Just have like a campy style. But I think on a certain level, this really limits your development. Like camping is, I think, Theo, you've been on record as saying wave dash back and just camping it out is the best strategy in the game, right?
I think I have said that before. I don't know if I agree with it anymore, but
like
I definitely have believed it at points.
Yeah, like it's a very appealing school of thought, right? Like just play.
Well, because there's so many defensive options, right, in Melee. It's not like Street Fighter where you can't really dash back fast with like most characters. But in Melee, you have roll, you have shield, you have spot dodge, you have jump 12 feet in the
having
air.
lots of defensive options is actually one of, I think, in a lot of people's opinions, the big issues with Street Fighter 4. The fact that every character has an invincible backdash.
Oh, really?
Like overheads are kind of rare and not that impactful.
Anyways, so the point is, Melee, it's really easy to escape in a lot of situations, and if that's your playstyle, then that's what's going to appeal to you. But the downside is, I think this kind of limits your growth, or you get to these situations where you're both forced to fight each other less frequently, and you're forced to like get into weird, messy situations less frequently. So I think it's not a secret that MacD wants to hit you, right? Like he's gonna get swatted away 5 times before he lands that 6th time, but that 6th time we're in close quarters because he's been in that situation so many times. I think he's gonna win out. So I think that naturally aggressive players, while they may look dumb more often, get a lot of experience that the quote unquote smarter zoning kind of players may not have had. So, I think that everyone here besides me is more of a zoning type player, right?
I don't know about that.
Like, what would you classify yourself as?
Me? I think I'm pretty balanced. I mean, it just depends on who I'm playing against. I like to approach more often than not. But I mean, sometimes that's just a bad idea. That's up to you.
Whoa.
So, I mean, you just adapt your playstyle to whatever works. Sometimes if you really want to win, like, maybe I'll camp it out because interacting with someone who's better than me can be hard. But I mean, I wouldn't really do that sort of thing in practice. It's really situational. Depends on what my objective is when I'm playing, I guess.
Well, RedRice, when I play with you in friendlies, you're super aggro,
Yeah.
right? Like you go super in.
Yeah.
But when I played you that one time we played in tournament, you like short hop double lasered me for 6 minutes. And I was just like, what the heck?
Yeah. Okay. So playing in tournament, playing in friendlies is like I don't know. Who subscribes to that thought where like you should play like serious in both like Mewtwo King or something. He plays like as serious as he can in friendlies. No, it's not Mewtwo King, is it? But some anyways.
Armada probably.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Armada most definitely.
Yeah, but like I don't know, I like I don't know, just like as a Fox player, I love being aggressive and trying to look like Mango, but you know it never does. So like so that makes me always want to like approach and stuff, and it's pretty bad because like when I get to tournament, like I sometimes will still have that same mindset and it'll backfire, but depending on who I play in tournament, like I think naturally I'm a pretty campy player actually. Like I like to dash dance and I like to, if I could, like shoot lasers well. But my tournament and my friendly player is completely separated.
So I think it works both ways, right? On one hand, you get the experience of being aggro and like going in and being crazy. Hi, Racer. And on the other, you don't get to have honed your tournament, your tournament style, so to speak,
so
as
like,
much as someone who played
right. So when I play in tournament, like I always feel like my lasers aren't as good as someone else's lasers, like like Kruk or something who has really good lasers apparently now. But I like if I started lasering in friendlies, I'm sure it would look much better in tournament. But I just can't play like that in friendlies. It's too lame for me.
Speaking of which, I think that Squibble, I think whenever I play friendlies with you, it's like every friendly is like the end of the world, right? Like the most important game that's ever been played, and it's like the campiest thing ever if there's ever. It's like dash dancing for maybe 30 seconds straight because we're both super focused. And like I personally mess around in friendlies a little bit, like not too much. But when I'm playing with you, it always goes into super serious mode. And is that the way you always?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think the way our personalities clash and the way we play just creates these games. I think we have like very natural like styles that I think like the way you play makes me very angry, and I feel like the way I play is like your hated way of playing the game. And we're always super close, right? So it just encourages this really toxic environment. But I learn a lot because of it, right? But it's just, I don't know. There's definitely merit to trying tons of new things in friendlies, because if you try it in tournament, it doesn't work, well, that sucks. But in a friendly, you get to learn. But then I sometimes have way too much ego in friendlies, and then I can't learn. So that's why I'm trying to get rid of my ego so I can be better.
Yeah, like Slop said that one time, like a month or two.
Yeah.
Podcasts ago.
I don't know, because I don't think it's. Yeah, we've had some time. I think we've played friendlies like twice where we didn't get angry. So, well, at least where both of us didn't get angry, because usually it happens to one person or
So-
both of us.
For the viewers at home, we play friendlies like what? Like
Yeah.
So yeah, don't be like us. Apparently, learn
Well,
from your friendly sessions.
no, but like because of it, my lasering and dash dancing has gotten really good, which isn't like the most fun thing to practice, but is super good, right? But maybe my approach game isn't as good as it is because I was too scared to do approach. And it took me like a year to learn that drill was a good move, and that was just from the Scar and Toph show.
Yeah, what was with that?
Toph said it was a good move, so then I used it more. That's basically it.
Yeah, pro tip. There's three. I guess 3.5 if you count Dave. Fox mains here that are all telling you that short hop drill is amazing. So yeah, do it.
Short hop drill is really good.
Last time I played school in tournament, all I did was full hop nair. What was that?
Full up there so good, and then you retreat it, and then they can't punish it.
But it's so obvious.
Yeah, but I mean, it probably worked. I don't think you beat me, so.
That's true. I did not win that set.
How does it feel when you lose to something you know is coming?
Okay, no. The problem was in neutral. Like, he had better punishes than me.
Yeah, I hear that.
That full up there caught you like probably at least once.
It probably did.
And then you overshoot the nair, like when you start it, and then still fade back, so you hit them. But then if you didn't hit them, you're not super screwed. And then you mix it up with doing one so early that they think they can punish it, but they can't, and then you do like shine and then kill them. So,
Dude, you
like
got
he,
conditioned.
Mikey's trying to come.
Mike,
Oh.
hey.
Well, I'm probably not gonna play tonight. So.
Anyways, so Dave, I think you've been a very vocal proponent of maximizing your solo time practice and, just making sure that you put in the hours and to grind. But we've heard a couple of different viewpoints, and I know that you have a lot of thoughts on how to improve. What would you recommend the approach is to take this for friendlies? I know it should be different for
Friendlies?
and whatnot.
I mean, it really depends what you're looking to get out of it. It depends who you're playing. It depends what character you play. But the same things apply to tournament sets. Like I guess the conventional wisdom is that you should go into every set trying your hardest to win, which I tend to agree with. But there are times where it's more important to probably learn something that'll help you in the long term than it is to maybe win one set. But that's like kind of on the player to find the middle ground. But like I think it was RedRice. Also, hey, how's it going, man? I haven't seen you in a while.
What's up, man?
Hey, I didn't even know you played anymore, to be honest.
Yeah, I took a break, but
That's okay. A lot of people take breaks. But you said something like you don't like playing lame in friendlies, but you feel like if you did, it would probably look better when you do it in a tournament.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's important. Like obviously I'm not gonna tell anybody how they should spend their time, but I just think as a competitor, it's in your best interest to use your casual time to prepare for what you're gonna do in a tournament set. But it's kind of hard. It's hard to do this, because I mean for a number of reasons, really. But there's a lot of like stigma in the community towards like certain play styles and like certain characters, like certain things in the game. So sometimes people kind of feel like they should just like have fun and do whatever. And like melee's fun. There's a lot of kooky stuff you can do, and like when I play really long sessions with people, I usually try to get some serious games in and really like target some things that I've been working on. Yeah, people just gotta get over it and be lame, basically is what I'm saying. But basically, like I try to get some time in for silly games too. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I'll do like with Bolthus one time we were playing this game where you play Infinite Falcon Dittos and Yoshi's Story, and the goal is to Falcon punch the other guy. once you Falcon Punch them, they have I think it's like a minute or 2 minutes to Falcon Punch you back. So you kind of have to start, especially if you're playing against somebody who's pretty good, you have to start thinking about like really creative ways to land it. And also in that session, I actually managed to Sacred Combo him, which I've never done in an actual, like the context of a match before. So that was pretty cool. But I mean, there's a lot of ways to approach it, you know? But I do think that in general, it's kind of maybe a little foolish to think that you're gonna completely change the way you play because it's a tournament set and suddenly get like, you know, just like everything's just gonna be there when you need it. Because I think that also comes from kind of this idea that playing campy or playing really defensive is easy, and it's not really, you know, like, and especially as you play against stronger opponents who understand like how to punish passivity. There's a lot of, you know, challenges that maybe people wouldn't really think about that are involved. But I mean, you can be aggressive and patient, or you can be passive and opportunistic. So you know, it's like there's a gradient there. It's not always just campy or just aggressive. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's basically it.
This is actually segues into one of the next points that I've been thinking about. So, what does good aggressive play look like? And I've been thinking about this a lot. And the really good aggressive players, Mango's the obvious one that everyone knows about, but even like Armada's pretty aggressive. Like PP is pretty aggressive. They put themselves into situations, but they don't commit, right? Like I've noticed this a lot when I've been studying videos of what good aggressive play looks like. Like no top player is actually really passive, right? Like they're always applying pressure in some way, and they're put themselves into a position where their opponent can like mess up or put themselves into a position to get hit by you. This is something that I've been watching. I've actually been watching all the Peach players recently, but this is something that I've noticed Mafia playing with. And this is, I think that everyone agrees that Mafia's punish game is really good, but sometimes I hear his neutral game get a little flack, right? Like, oh, he's just Peach and he just runs at them, and sometimes he hits them and gets his punish off and kills them, right? Like, I've definitely heard this criticism a couple of times. But I've watched him, I watched a couple of his videos in New Game Plus yesterday. I was watching it, and I've noticed he puts himself in positions where he can attack them, and it's really scary, and he just hangs out, right? Like sometimes he will go in and commit, but he just hangs out in those spots for like a long time. And even if he doesn't attack, it puts a huge mental burden on their opponent. And I was thinking about this, right? Because like in a given neutral situation, you can't just hit them. That's like assuming that your opponent is playing good neutral, I don't think you can just force a situation and win it unless you're Fox. But for most characters that don't have a run across the stage neutral option, you can't just force a good situation. You have to earn your hits and commit, like threaten more and commit less. Like I've noticed that you actually do this a lot, Kenny. Is that you're pretty good at
Circle jumping.
Circle jumping, exactly, and you just wait for your opponent to do something that you can hit.
Wait, what's circle jumping?
Yeah. So circle jumping is just like you dash in, and instead of just like wave dashing back, you jump. So you like fake an aerial, and you wave land back, and like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's like better triangle jumping. So yeah, it really like it baits out a lot of options. Like people will try to shield grab you because they think an aerial's coming. They'll try to like some people just like stay in shield, and it's just like really good pressure. But yeah, I mean like I think who did I watch do it? And I started doing probably Mango or like.
Matt does it a lot.
The classic is the Billy, right, where you wave land back forward smash, and that's middle. That's super hard read on like a shield grab or something.
But like if you like space it well, it's safe on shield and stuff like that. But I think circle jumping is like really like a good like it looks like you're aggressive, but it's like a smart option because you're not like putting yourself in a bad position
Unless they hard read it with or something
like that.
But yeah. Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. And when I watch really good players play, I counted the number of times Armada dash attacks in neutral in a set versus, I think it was Bizarro Flame. And I think it was once the entire game where he just dash attacked him. And that like blows my mind because Peach's dash attack it's amazing, right? We've all been hit by Peach dash attack.
It's like her best footsie for sure.
It's her only footsie, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, it's the only thing she can use to threaten with because Peach is pretty slow, but dash attack is fast. And Armada used it one time. The rest of the time he just dash danced or he like threatened or he used safe aerials in positions where they would hit him, hit his opponent, but be relatively safe in response. And that like I think that a lot of new players I watch have this mentality of I'm going to dash dance for X seconds and then I'm going to go in, right? Like I've dash danced enough. Now I get.
I mean, a lot of pretty good players do that too. Spoiler alert.
It's a feeling. I think everyone has an internal clock, where it's like an energy bar of dash dance, right? That depletes over time, and for some players it's just infinite, right? But
Yeah, dude, it's like Mortal Kombat. There's a run gauge.
yes, exactly. You can only run back and forth a given number of times before your thumb wears out, unless you're like PP or someone incredibly good at just dash dancing forever. And everyone else just like approaches. And I think the real secret to being good and aggressive is to like always be faking it and never actually be committing until committing is good.
Well, I think you have to establish when committing is good.
Yeah.
Which is, there's like, I mean, sometimes you don't know. I guess is what I would say to that. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming you were going to ask Kenny or I'm sorry, I actually didn't catch their names about this one. Sorry.
So for those of you who have just been tuning in, we're at UMass together with RedRice. Kenny is RedRice, and Andrew or Wind.
Okay, that's what I was confused about. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, we're both Asian.
I think you've actually read Rice more than once before.
It's,
No, I have met you guys. I'm really bad with names.
it's an Asians with glasses problem.
I think I would recognize RedRice, but I don't think I would know his first name because I don't know if I've ever actually said it out loud until just now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
Yeah. So Drew, you like to consider yourself pretty aggressive. Like, how do you get your hits?
How do I get my hits?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, being aggressive doesn't necessarily mean you go in and like attack them. It's just how you decide to put your pressure on them. So like a defensive player would put pressure on someone by like creating space or something like that and kind of forcing the other person to come at them, or they would be at a disadvantage otherwise. But in playing aggressive, you come at them, but not right at them. And it's just like you want to be up in their face and make them think if I don't do something, then I'm gonna get walloped for it somehow. And just like it just depends on your route going in. So like maybe a beginner person would like just run up and do a short hop nair or something. But I mean, when you're playing aggressive and you want to get your hits, like maybe you'll predict like that the person on defense will run back and you'll do like an overshoot nair. That's like kind of a classic example of like how someone might want to get their hits. But you just put the pressure on them and make them think about what they're going to do, and then you just kind of have to go for like very slight reads like that don't necessarily put you in bad positions. I mean, you can get hard read sometimes, but I mean, overall, if you're on offense properly, generally you can win out if you are consistently better.
So Theo, when you approach, which you have started doing recently, how do you go about it?
Well, part of it is because it's a lot less mental effort to approach than not approach. Because you don't have to now react at the speed of light. When you go in, you just like assume your read was correct on where they're going to be, and then it either works out or not. So, yeah, basically, my game plan is usually play defensive as my first instinct, and then if I have some kind of people suck at dash dancing usually, and then you can just see where they're going to go, so then you go hit them there. And then by forcing the situation, you don't give them more time to pick up on your habits. So I think ending a game faster is probably a good idea, unless your entire strategy is timing them out or like trying to hold a lead. but that's kind of hard with Fox a lot of the time.
But when you approach with Jigglypuff, you just kind of like camped there, right?
Yeah, with with Jigglypuff, her best approach is probably Tomahawk Grab, which I did do a lot. And then I think at a certain point I stopped. So the whole point is you spam back air with Jigglypuff because punishing is like impossible. And then they just spam shield, so then they can't react in time for you to just land and grab them. But then I would try and be too tricky and just grab too much, and they would never actually respect the back air. So that's when you play a defensive character, you have to keep doing the super good defensive option enough so they keep respecting it, because as soon as they stop respecting it, none of your actually like interesting options will work anymore. And that's a trap sometimes you fall into when you learn all these fancy neutral game strats, is that they don't, a lot of them work because they're respecting your like normal easy good strat. But if they don't respect the normal easy good strat, then your fancy things won't work.
Yeah, and that's something that I think that I've noticed Armada does this, is he goes for the run up air on their shield a lot. Like it's just like magic how he gets that every time. They're always like, oh my god, he's gonna grab me, and they get hit by it every time. Except for like when Leffen does it, he just kind of stays still on shield, and then it looks silly. So you just got to run up grab a lot to make them respect it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So moving on. So UMass Amherst has their first big tournament of the year this Saturday, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I don't think it was meant to be super massive, but basically from what I know, some CT guys are coming down. I think like Bolt and Puff. I don't know if they're taking anyone else are coming. And hopefully most of our guys from UMass are going. I think Kenny and Devin can actually make it. And I'm not actually sure if I can make it myself.
Wow.
I'll be there. And maybe some of you will be too.
No, it would be really cool if people from Mass came out, though. I mean, I guess it contributes to circuit points if you care about that sort of thing.
Woohoo!
We all care about the circuit points. We want to go to the beach. But yeah, ZoSo has been down to one of these. Mafia and Matt has definitely showed up.
Oh man, the last time ZoSo showed up, he almost owned. He did own a TV.
Yeah, that was a good time.
He got so angry, he just stood up and threw the TV over his shoulder.
I actually threw it out the window.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I landed on a small child.
Yeah.
Why did you throw the TV out the window?
No, I like accidentally knocked it over.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't end up owning it though.
Reed. It was very bizarre. It was a normal TV.
Wasn't that Bonfire's TV?
Maybe.
Oh, you did the world a service.
That was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was a while.
I hardly remember. That was a terrible day also. It rained for like 36 hours straight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, that was the tournament I beat you at.
Yes. This is the one where I was like, well, I've been playing friendlies for like 2 hours with you, and I was kind of owning you, right? Like, you just short hop drill, and I wave dash back down smash you over and over for like 2 hours straight. And then I run up, and I wave dash back, and then you laser me for like 5 minutes. And I was like, what the heck, man?
Sick,
So
right?
you conditioned me.
I conditioned you.
That was the next level. That's how you do it, folks.
That's
Get owned, Howard.
the tournament hustle.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I don't know if any of you read the New England Melee Melee Facebook page. You probably do, which is why you're here. But there's been some buzz recently from Papa Dave himself about some private lessons.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I've actually very interested to hear what.
I don't know if buzz is really the right word. But actually, I think I've talked to Theo about this. I don't know if I talked to Howard about this, but Kenny and Andrew, what are your gut reactions on it? I'm just curious.
Okay, so for lessons, I think your post got a lot of initial likes because people automatically think like, oh, top player, if I play with them, I'll automatically get better. But
I agree.
A lot of people just don't recognize that if they can't put in the work themselves, then I don't really see like how good lessons can be. But I can't say I've taken lessons from a good melee player.
Mhm.
So I mean, I'm not to discredit like your skill as a teacher or anything, but I'm kind of skeptical as to how effective it would be to the average player.
I think that's totally warranted.
That's pretty much my thoughts on it. For what it's worth, it could be incredibly informative, but I'm kind of erring on the side of caution on this one.
Yeah, I for the most part agree with Andrew. Like not to say that like you won't be a great teacher because I think I read it that like you teach guitar and stuff, so I'm sure like,
Yeah.
you know how to teach people. But I think personally for myself, I think I learned a lot more just from like playing people who are better than me.
Yeah, sure.
So I guess in theory it would be really good. The only problem is just like paying $20, I guess, or however much.
Yeah, of course.
decide to-
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really like hammered down a hard rate yet. I've been talking to other players who are doing this in other regions and kind of getting a feel for what they charge.
Right.
So like you mentioned, I am like a teacher otherwise. And the thing I would want, the mindset that I would want anybody to go into this with is, it's for me to get something out of this, you know, like a teacher can show you, you know, anything that you want to know, but I think it's also kind of important to instill the fact that like whatever you do, whatever you take away from this, you need to work on and you need to put time into it, you know, outside of whatever we're going to do here. So yeah, I agree. That's something I considered, and I think this is something that kind of came up last week. There's kind of this like really superstitious way that a lot of players have of looking at improvement, where it's like you just play people and you just get better like magically. I think you would probably see most of the great players, they didn't really approach it like that. You know, maybe outside of a couple of cases of people who are really talented, or maybe wouldn't really let on how hard they actually work. But you know, Leffen credits his really rapid improvement to really deliberate practice. But yeah, basically what I had in mind, like I said, I haven't really hammered out the rates, but I was thinking, you know, the next couple of times I go to tournaments, just like reach out to some people who are going to be there, see if anybody wants to commit like a half an hour or an hour, and then sit down, play like a best of 5 set or a best of 3, depending on how much time we have, and that let them like pick my character, you know, like kind of let them decide what they want to learn, and then, you know, maybe try to like target some concepts that I think are really important, or if somebody needs help on a specific matchup, then look at like nuts and bolts kind of stuff, you know, like real like discrete things that you can replicate that are really specific, like how to deal with different situations, and you know, try to play a couple of games at the end just to kind of like, you know, hopefully show them how they can start to see these things solidify, or what they can do specifically to get better at certain things. Because I think that's really what it comes down to, is whenever you're teaching something, you need to be super specific, and you need to give your student like a really clear idea of what their desired outcome should be.
So I think it's really fitting that you're a music teacher, because I think in a lot of ways, getting good at melee is really similar to getting good at piano or getting good at cello.
Yeah, I think getting good at anything, really.
When I was a kid, I had piano lessons with this terrifying teacher. Absolutely, like the scariest, evilest,
Russian?
meanest bitch you've ever.
She was
like,
Russian.
She wasn't Russian. She was actually Russian.
She's definitely Russian.
She was like, but she was also one of the best teachers I've ever had at anything, because you went home and you practiced. Because you were, I mean, I was like little then.
Yeah.
Right, but you can't really do that now. You can't terrorize 22-year-olds. That's not allowed.
I mean, the hell you can't.
I mean,
I would
Go to like
probably
any
get
music
scared.
school. I'm sure they'll disagree with you.
Okay, I clearly have not been to the same school as you.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was allowed. I thought that was illegal. But anyways, the point is, the kids who got better the fastest at my piano school, we had like 10 of us in a class, were the people who practiced the most. And it doesn't matter how good the teacher was. I mean, they were all under the same teacher. It's just the ones who, I mean, talent obviously mattered. But they went home, they thought about the lessons, they wanted to get better, and they improved the most. And they went every week, of course. You couldn't skip. You were trained by your parents. And I think this would be a very similar thing here, where people who would show up would do the work. I mean, I don't know if you were thinking of assigning homework or how official or what kind of like a lesson plan or anything like that. But if you,
I would want to follow up with people, but like the challenges that people could face in Melee are so individualized. Like all my students who play guitar, I can pretty much tell you what the first like 4 or 5 things they're really going to have trouble with are. Whereas in Melee, like the character they play matters, the play group they have matters. But ideally, if I knew that I was going to be committing some time to somebody, I would speak to them in advance, figure out exactly like who they play, who they want me to play, what do they want to work on, what are they curious about, what are they having trouble with, and then kind of like base my approach on that. The nice thing about Melee is that there's a lot of really concrete, like situation-specific knowledge to impart. There's so much of that, you know. There's so many little tidbits that can be helpful for people. But you know, trying to balance that out, I think, with like kind of generic fighting game sense, I guess, because what I find a lot with people who are kind of have plateaued or are not really sure how they should go about getting better is some of their like concepts and the way they think about the game. It's a little out of line with, I guess, what I would consider to be, you know, like a good way of thinking about the game, or a, you know, like an accurate way of thinking about the game, I guess. But yeah, actually, to go back to what you said a little while ago, Kenny, there are certain people, and I had a couple of people like message me about lessons, and I just told them, like, you know, this isn't something I would say to anybody, but I think us playing each other, just playing games, you would probably get more out of that, and I would probably get more out of that, you know. Like people who are just like already pretty established players who already kind of know what their strengths and weaknesses are. So I certainly don't think it's for everybody.
I think one of the strongest points about like coaching or teaching is that like there are things that you think about in theory, and it's hard for you to like actually apply them until someone tells you like, oh, in this situation you should do this, or like.
Yeah, right.
So I think like coaching is really good for people who need to see something like be done out like in front.
For sure.
So it's kind of like black and white almost. So it lets you really like really see it instead of like having to play however many tournament sets or whatever. But
yeah, and I mean, like, you're coaching somebody, but you're also hopefully like kind of teaching them to be their own coach. You know, because sooner or later they're gonna you know, not have the issues that they're facing now, and they're gonna need to come up with new stuff to work on.
Right.
Like you're kind of.
I think there are a lot of situations where people like they know what to do, and like they've seen other people do it, but the problem is like they can't do it themselves. And I think coaches or teachers are really good at like showing or teaching, you know, like how to go about it. So
sure.
I think in theory, like having a coach or a teacher is really beneficial. It's just, you know, an issue of practicality, I suppose.
Yeah, right.
Something I've always wanted to have was to have like a little brother that I could just be like, hey, play Falco. Like, assuming they're proficient at Melee. Hey, play Falco, just full hop dare me in a predictable way. I'm gonna try and power shield down smash that. And you can't get your friends to do that for an hour, because that's really boring.
You can get some people to do that. And
yeah, you can get some, if you can bully some people into doing that, but then more power to you. But I've never, I mean, if you can get that, if you can make it go back and forth. But if you really want the dedicated practice time, having like a second man who can do all these technical things could be really helpful to practice those things that you can't get 20x exploits to do. All right, I think that's just about it for our show. Before we go,
I actually had one more thing to add about the point that you just made.
Okay.
I think drilling specific situations is extremely underrated, and if you have somebody who you can do that with, definitely play them as much as you can. You know, like somebody who you don't have to bully, somebody who's as curious about the game as you are and is willing to take like kind of like an experimental sort of learning approach to it. I think it's been so helpful for me in the past. But yeah, there are some people who just don't really have the patience for it. So no reason to try to force them. But yeah, I wanted to mention that.
All right. So before we go to shoutouts, I'd like to mention that next show we will be taking questions from the audience. That's you all, and just message us on Facebook or put it in the Twitter chat during the show or Twitch chat during the show, and we will get to them the last 10, 15 minutes of the show, pick out the best questions, and we will let you know what we have to say about them. But yeah, do you guys have any shoutouts you'd like to make?
I guess shout outs to the UMass Smash Club and shout outs to Big Blue Esports for having us, I guess.
Yes. Wow. Thank you for
Such
coming.
enthusiasm.
Thanks for having me, Howard.
Thank you, Ken. We'd love to have you.
You put me on the spot. I didn't expect to shout people out. Just shout out.
Petty Kim?
Shout outs to my mom.
Shout outs to his mom.
Shout outs to Spoogle's mom. Anyway, shout outs to Tien. We hope we should be seeing him back next week. We may be seeing him back next week. We hope you are doing well.
Shout outs to PJ and Crush for beating me with their dumb secondaries. But I'll beat you with my dumb secondaries one day. We'll see.
You are playing your dumb secondary. It's your main now.
Yeah, wait, when did you switch? When did you like permanently switch from Puff?
When Kalamazoo counterpicked my Puff with Fox in like May.
Watch the podcast. You wouldn't know this. We went over this last week.
Man.
It was this big story.
I got exposed.
You should tune in.
Yeah. Well, that's when I like really wanted to switch, but I still played Puff at Big House, which was in October. In Big House, I played half Puff, half Fox. Mm-hmm.
All right, and shout outs to the viewers for tuning in. Thank you very much, and we will see you next week. That's it from us.
Bye, everybody.
Later.